We believe that God will save us, will bring us to life. So how we hold on to Jesus, this is what it is baking on. Because if our heart holds on to God, our body will follow. Today I'm going to explain about insomnia. By age, your recommended sleep hours change. The younger you are, you sleep more, and the older you are, it's less so. And so young children, they sleep quite a lot. When you become an adult, an elderly, it's from 7 to 9 hours. If you sleep at 9, what time do you need to wake up then? Let's do some math. We should wake up around 5 or 6. And so waking up early has no real correlation. But if you sleep late, no matter how much you sleep into the morning, there's no effect. And so sleeping early is quite important. By my experience, by sleeping early, this is where a lot of people are able to have healing. So based on that, what time would eating be good for dinner? Normally our digesting time takes about 4 to 5 hours. So if we eat at 5:30, we can go to sleep around 9:30 because that's when our food is digested. And so that's why we eat a little early here and we don't eat a lot at dinner time, because if all of the blood is gone to the stomach for digestion, we cannot recover as much as we want to at night. And so if you go to sleep early, that is how we are able to receive a lot of healing benefit. But what are these reasons that we cannot go to sleep? If we look at the people around us, they saw that stress is one of the biggest reasons for sleep deprivation and late to return home because of work or overwork or a heavy workload, watching TV. These things, this is a number 1 to 4 reason. And so stress is the number 1. Is there anyone here without stress? Does everyone have stress? So I guess that means that we all can't sleep then, right? Although we live in a world that's filled with a lot of stress, how can we digest it easily? Then we can, if we figure that out, then we can sleep deeply. To students who are studying a lot, their parents said to sleep, but because they use their brains so much, they need to exercise rather. That will be actually more effective. If they sleep and then study a lot, the brain actually receives a big shock. Excessive research or study leads to insomnia, nerve exhaustion, and sometimes loss of health. And so if you study too much, you cannot sleep well and you will receive health issues. My children would take the bus here and go to Tenang to go to school. So they need to leave about an hour earlier than most children to go to school. But at night, because there is a last bus, I told them to come in early. And so they need to do these extra classes after school. And so I gave them these limits to when they needed to finish studying, because the more they study, the harder it is for them. And so when I gave my children limits to when they can study, it was difficult for them because they had a lot of ambition. But because I trust in God's word, I knew that studying a lot would actually be unbeneficial. Focus is actually the biggest component into studying well. So focusing for 1 hour is actually better than studying for 10. If we just focus almost as if we were taking a picture, you can remember it clearly. But no matter how long you sit in a library, if you don't focus, there is no point in studying. And so, I rather took more interest in taking away the things that they were worried about or addressing their concerns. And so this is what we teach here when we have the parent-student seminar. And so if we focus, the students can study well, and rather than studying for a long time, we'll get rather tired of it, and it's actually can cause more difficulty. So actually exercise or working outside will be more beneficial to study. If you would exercise your muscles in laboring with your hands, some portion of each day combining labor with study, your mind would be better balanced, your thoughts would be of a purer and more elevated character, and your sleep would be more natural and healthful. You would be less confused or numbed because of a congested brain. There's a very famous high school. These students from that high school went to one of the top colleges in Korea, and they actually make the children do this exercise, and they farm, and only during study times do they study. I was quite surprised when I heard that because they knew the truth. High schools that make their students study all day, their students aren't able to get into that #1 college. If we eat a lot before going to sleep, we'll actually dream quite often. More food is forced upon it, which sets the digestive organs in motion, again to perform the same round of labor through the sleeping hours. The sleep of such is generally disturbed with unpleasant dreams, and in the morning they awake unrefreshed. There is a sense of languor and loss of appetite. So, in order to sleep well, we need to take some things into note. It says to eat a lot before going to sleep, right? But the issue is the dreams. Where do dreams come from? Accurate dreams are actually quite scary. How can we guess what dreams we will have? For example, when I come back from going outside, I come here to make it for the lecture and I get into an accident. But they're waiting here. You guys are waiting here for me, and you're waiting, but I'm not coming. But then, let's say Miss Boram was falling asleep, and during the falling asleep, she had a dream. And in that dream, she thought the director got into a car accident in her dream. And so she wakes up, and then she wonders, did he get into a car accident? And then I call, and I say, I can't go because I got into an accident. And then she thinks, oh, my dream was accurate. So why do we have this type of dream? Where do these come from? Satan can see both sides. And in the same time we get into an accident, they can give another person a dream that we got into an accident. And so if these dreams become accurate, what do we start believing in? We start believing in what occurs in our dreams. And then, if you go to church, you'll die. Oh, I might die if I go to church. And so they don't go to church. Who does this work? God does not speak through dreams. Maybe in a few exceptions, to prophets perhaps. Are you a prophet? No, all these dreams are unnecessary. They're from Satan. We should not believe them. We need to pray to God to prevent us from getting a lot of dreams. Ecclesiastes 5 verse 3, if you keep thinking about something, you will dream about it. If you will talk too much, you will say the wrong thing. And so, the reason why we can't fall into a deep sleep are these dreams. It's because we have a lot of thoughts. And so, we must address our thoughts, cut them off before we go to sleep, and then we will fall asleep deeply. But if we have all of these dreams and we can't sleep, then we need to count sheep. 1 sheep, 2 sheep, 3 sheep. How much do we count? And then we start over 1099. But do we need to sleep or not? Do we need to sleep? Well, what happens if we don't sleep, What's the matter? Is there a need for us to sleep? But scientists explain why we need to sleep. Our brain is set, and in our brain, there's certain trash, it cannot get rid of it. If the body produces trash or waste, it gets rid of it through our pee or sweat, but our brain does not have such method to get rid of the trash that goes into the brain. And so, through the nerves, these trash is eliminated. And let's take a look at this. In these videos, here there are, it's a scan of a brain of living rats. On the left is an active brain, and on the right is the activity outside of the brain, the tissue outside of the brain. And the amazing thing is that the fluid outside of the brain, it didn't stay in one place. Instead, it went through the brain along the outside of the blood vessels, and it cleans as it goes through, and it's cleaning the waste in the brain cells. Most surprisingly is that all of these things, everything that I just told you about all this fluid rushing through the brain, it only happening when we sleep. Here, the video on the left is moving of the fluid when the brain is awake in the rat. But after it falls asleep, the fluid goes through. It's rushing through the brain. And we can see that the moment when the brain falls asleep, the brain cells shrink to allow the fluid to rush through the brain and get rid of this waste. So when the brain is busiest, when it is awake, it puts the waste between the brain cells, and when the brain goes to sleep, because it's not as busy, it shifts into cleaning mode to clear away the waste throughout that it created throughout the day. Because it's cleaning the trash, we need to sleep. If we cannot sleep, the waste in our brain remains. Then, if we cannot sleep, our head hurts, and we get these migraines and all of these different things. So we need to sleep. These cells need to shrink in order for the fluid to pass through. But this only happens when we get complete rest, when we sleep. And so in sleep, we have REM sleep and BREM sleep. REM sleep is when we have dreams when we sleep, but BREM sleep is a deep sleep. And only during the deep sleep is our brain able to clean out what is in our brains. This is what we need. So what if we have a little trash, our brains are trash anyhow. So, that's why we call children who can't study, trash, but jokingly, of course. But scientists also researched why it's bad to have trash left over in the brain. These freaking studies are surrounding beta amyloids. It is in my brain and in your brains as well. But in Alzheimer's patients, beta amyloids, if they remain between the brain cells, if they stay there, although they need to be cleaned, this buildup of beta amyloids is the source of this Alzheimer's. And so we compared how well the beta amyloids get cleaned when we're awake versus when we're asleep. And it is much more fully cleaned when we are in a deep sleep. And so if sleep is the way we can get rid of waste, then there may be a relationship between sleep and Alzheimer's. Many Alzheimer's patients in a recent study show that sleep quality and sleep length are related to the buildup of beta amyloids in their brains. But although it's not the source of Alzheimer's, beta amyloids are, they are not the source, but they contribute to the severity of Alzheimer's. So this new research tells us that all of you already knew that sleep refreshes and clears the mind. When it comes to cleaning the brain, our very health and body and mind are reliant on getting good sleep. So understanding why the brain needs to be cleaned through sleep may be crucial into seeing this. So cleaning the brain means that we are able to clean the brain. Sleeping is cleaning the brain. If the beta amyloids hook onto our nerves, it cuts off the nerves. So that is why beta amyloids, because they cut off the nerves that they are attached to, they can cause dementia. And so sleep, if we have unnecessary thoughts, if we have dreams, if we get rid of those, then we can fall into a good and deep sleep. So we need a correct or good sleep habits. What was the number one reason that we cannot fall asleep? Stress. You guys are good at studying. But they say the relationship between stress and Alzheimer's is this. Stressed mice damage cells responsible for memory and cognition. Researchers at the Max Planck Institute of Psychiatry in Munich, Germany, found that stress increases the risk of developing Alzheimer's disease. Stress and sleep have a relationship, and sleep with Alzheimer's. One person with Alzheimer's came here. Her children live in the States, and so she lives alone, but she got dementia. And so one day, she came here, and her son quit his job in the United States to come take care of her. And she had wrapped something very precious to her in toilet paper and left it in the bathroom. And she bought a house, and she got stressed that her children had sold it without her permission. And so she put in the password, and her house was the same. And then she would say, after confirming that it was still her house, she wanted to go back because she said they sold it again. And so her son was going through a really hard time. And she said that she would go cut the weeds outside in the garden. She cut off all these newly planted we can't hate her, can't love her. We went through a tricky situation there. She was dreaming, and in that dream, she was in 101, and she dreamt that someone was knocking on the door, and she opened the door, and there was two black shadow-like men. Are there two shadow-like men here? No. But she kept dreaming about that, and she didn't realize that it was a dream, and that happened a few times. And then she began to call on Jesus. And so you don't know how beneficial it is to call on Jesus, especially when something that bothers our minds comes along. We need to fight against it. If we lose to our conscience, then we are dragged along. And that is why perhaps she got dementia in the first place. And so let's take a listen into how she got better. While I was sleeping on August 14th last year, my body would not move well and it felt weird, so I went to Samyukseol Hospital. I was diagnosed with dementia. So I went to another hospital and another, but still the results of the test was the same. I felt like there was darkness ahead of me. Some of the time last year, my spirit, my energy revived. I have a 31 square foot house over there and a little house in Sangye-dong. I told my children that I sold it, but my children told me that I didn't sell the house, so they looked at me strangely. There are two female teachers in my church. They recommended I should go to Seronam and receive treatment. I was sleeping one day in the room 101 and I heard someone knocking on my door, and it felt like a man was standing outside. The next day I heard someone knocking at the door again. This time two men knocked. It was a dream, it wasn't real, so I was confused by the devil's work. I had not read the two books, Call Upon God and Choose Now, until that point, but I was encouraged by the books when I started reading them. I was touched and tried to rely on God with all my heart. I realized that God is on my side, so I understand that no matter how much Satan is bothering me, I would not be deceived by him. Then my mind was healed. So from then on, I can take the bus, take the train, go to church, and go home alone. I'm so grateful for Director Kim and his wife. I've been going to church for 54 years. But here at Seronam, I've heard lectures with meaningful and deep words, and I can now remember times when I was a child. So I'm fully recovered. I'm so grateful. Wow, she recovered. Dementia can be healed. Who does this work? Satan does this work to bother us. Although dementia was said to be a disease that is unhealable, if we seek God deeply, even dementia can be healed. And so there are some people here, to those who are being bothered by Satan, they need to hold on to God deeply. Do only people sleep, or do plants sleep too? How do plants sleep? Do they, rest their head against a brick? Animals and plants also sleep. And so almost all plants sleep. Almost all plants sleep with the exception of a very few. If that's the case, from what time to what time do they sleep? Do they have a clock? We have wristwatches here, but where do plants keep their watches? So scientists actually researched where they keep their clocks. Especially there's a kidney bean plant, and among them, these bean plants, the scientists took a look at where their internal clocks are located. And so this plant showed that on the third leaf, there is this internal clock. And so when they cut off that leaf, just like when the leaves were outstretched, it's not sleeping, but when the sun goes down, the leaves kind of wilt a little bit. But then when they cut the third leaf off, the leaves would not wilt because the internal clock disappeared. This third leaf had their internal clock. What about us? Where is our clock? When you come from the States, you get jet lag, and so things are difficult. Where is our internal clock? In our brain? In our brain where? Let's open up our brains. I'm trying to adjust the clocks for everyone here. But the scientists figured out where the clocks of humans are located. In the deepest part of the brain. This is where the clock is located. So if we adjust this clock, then we can go to sleep right away. For those who cannot go to sleep, come here. I will adjust your clock for you. Now, what do we need to open with? A knife? A scalpel? Is there a way for us to do surgery and adjust our clocks? In here. In this deep place, we need to turn this clock in order for us to sleep. It's called the suprachiasmatic nucleus. The human biological clock is a very powerful device. It is located deep inside of the brain and tells you when to wake up and when to fall asleep. It also regulates body temperature and hormones. This is shown from the chronic fatigue, jet lag of night workers and travelers. And so this thing that shows up in the deepest part of us, because we cannot touch it, we cannot sleep. But Jesus can change this for us. For example, there is a signal here. Sorry, there's a street light here, and normally there were no streetlights around here. There was only one next to the base, the army base. But from here we could see there, because in the dark night, even the things far away, we can see because it is dark and there's one light there. Jesus can see the things that are deep within our minds. The Bible speaks of it like this. Proverbs chapter 20, verse 27, the human spirit is like the lamp of the Lord, searching all his innermost parts. So when Jesus adjusts our brains for us, then we can go to sleep. You cannot fall asleep during a lecture though. Not a warning. There's a different adjuster working if you are falling asleep during the lecture. There is this suprachiasmatic nucleus, and Jesus can touch that part for us. Psalm chapter 94, verse 19, in the multitude of my anxieties within me, your comforts delight my soul. Earlier, what was one of the reasons that we cannot sleep? Why do we get stressed? Does a newborn babe who's still breastfeeding, can they get stressed? Do they worry about eating food? Do they worry about going to the bathroom? No, they have no worries. They get everything fed to them. They have these instant feeders. So why do we worry? The Israelites, because of this, in order to learn this, they were taught in the wilderness for 40 years. You're hungry? Then I'll give you food. Are you thirsty? Then if you hit this rock, I will give you water. Is it hot? Then I'll become a cloud for you. Are you cold at night? Then I'll be fire for you. This is what God provided for them. But the Israelites, why did they ask for quail? I ate a lot in Egypt, but there's nothing to eat here in the wilderness. There's no meat. You know, they were servants, so why were they complaining so much? But God just gave it to them. For 40 years, God wished to teach them that God provides everything. That God provides everything. This took 40 years for them to learn. As long as we do not forget what God has provided in the past, we will be safe. We need to forget about the issue is that we forget about the past and worry about the future. We have nothing to fear for the future except as we shall forget the way the Lord has led us and his teaching in our past history. There's nothing that we need to worry about except that we forget what God has done for us in the past. So, although we may do good works, we don't need to worry about the future because he has led us in the past also. The rest from God is essentially a spiritual rest, the rest of the soul, and the peace and quietness of God in the heart. But according to the unified doctrine of the Bible, only the presence of Christ can restore the spiritual or inward restfulness. In America, one person who was a really hard worker, related to the church work, they helped with organizing prayer groups across the world from the General Conference. But this person, because all these times are different, she would be awake from early in the morning until late at night, these prayer meetings. And so this person is very famous. But this person, because they could not sleep, they came here. They could not sleep and had a lot of stress, and they got a disease. And they came here because they tried to do this work on their own power. It was so difficult for them. So they got a disease, they could not sleep. And she spoke about what she learned here.
I would wake up so early, like 3 or 4 a.m. just to, pray and spend time with him. And then I would meet people from different countries each and every hour, praying for each of them. I wanted to exert much effort because I do not want that people would suffer, people would die. So I really tried my best to pray for each of them and help them. But turns out that doing my own effort, I've been losing and been detaching to the Jesus that I have learned to love and experience. Although I've learned to to love him and really accepted him, but I have the tendency to have a relapse of what are my old and wicked ways because I try to exert my own effort. And because things don't go right, I get easily discouraged. And I would even have a famous line that I would want to quit. Quit all the things that I do because if this is Jesus that I'm serving, then shouldn't have this discouragements and I should not have all these circumstances. I'm so grateful that when I came here at Serenam, I've I've had so much peace. All the discouragement thoughts and all the doubts have faded. And I'm so much grateful for the people He has used for me to know how deep and great His love is. So I'm grateful that God has brought me here because He has helped me reconnect to Him. And I am so much grateful that all the things that I have heard here is like programmed just for me. How I have to um, stay away from stress, how I should sleep well so that I would have a right mind and right thought, and how I should have that forgiveness in my heart, and how I should love because He has loved me. This morning I woke up crying so hard because He has shown to me how He loves me so much. And I'm so much grateful that through the people here, I get to really learn that Jesus is the only desire and the longing in my heart. And He has been so faithful to tell me that I am not alone and that He is able to help me. So I would not have to be guilty or punishing myself by working so hard because I know that all of us will be able to work for His glory to hasten His soon return. I have a tendency to be sick, so I am grateful that God has brought it to my realization that I should not overwork myself so that I would not be able to be sick again, and I will not be able um, to also be a bad representation to those people I am helping with. So that's it for today.
It's a very good work that she is doing, helping others, but she tried to do it on her own. And so she got tired and tired. And here, when she first came, she was really fatigued. This is what happens when we do things using our own power. We get stressed. We need a rest in God, but we cannot. How can we rest then? When we need to work in order to live, and we need to feed our children. So how can we rest? Can we? So, do you know what this is, everyone? Is it a club to hit someone? Can you see it? This is a yoke that is given to cows and oxen. This yoke, why do we give cows a yoke? It on ropes and they drag it along. If they drag it along, it'll dig into their skin. But if we use a yoke, then this work is a lot easier for them. As we're going along life, if we do it alone, then those ropes will dig into us. But if we receive God's help and go along with Him, it's so easy. And so the Bible speaks of it like this. Matthew chapter 11, verses 28 to 29. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. So the yoke is not to make us bothered, but to give us rest. And so although we're going along the same life road, if we try to solve things on our own, it's so difficult. But when we call on God and ask Him for help, then the pain disappears. God help me. Then the problem will pass away easily. Let's have this experience, is what I'm saying. We've been going through a hard time because we've tried to live life on our own. The purpose of the yoke was not to make the animal heavier, but to make it lighter. The burden was not to make things difficult, but to make them easy. This is what it means to take His yoke upon us, to take upon it. We have lots of burdens. Let's put them down in front of Jesus now. Some people may think, yeah, life is lived this way. But we give our burdens to God, and then He will take them for us. He bids us, be still and know that I am God. Here alone can true rest be found, and this is the effectual preparation for all who labor for God. Now we need to give our problems to God. How? These unnecessary thoughts come into our minds, these regrets and guilt and bad memories, these things come into our minds. But all we need to do is cut them. Then Jesus, God, will take them for us. Let us put down our burdens. And so I hope you are victorious. The reason we cannot sleep is this. We are trying to take our burden on our own. Put it down. Then our disease will be healed. We will be able to sleep. I hope that you will experience this. Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, your sons and daughters have come to seek you with desperate hearts. It was so hard to try and heal myself. And the king of death is trying to bother me. But because you are bigger than him, we are trying to give our burdens to you. Please hold us and comfort us, that we may meet you anew and be freed from our load and live happy and peaceful lives. We are not looking for money or fame, simply that we may live happily here while we are on this earth. Please accept us and give us another opportunity that the rest of our life will be lived together with you, peacefully, healthily, that we may live this way. Please help us. In your name we pray. Amen.